Good afternoon. Yesterday I signed a proclamation declaring a civil state of emergency in response to the growing homeless crisis in our city.
I would call to programs and they would either be full or wouldn't have space or wouldn't be able to take me and my young child. I had to have my son in a really kind of volatile environment.
Seattle's mayor responded to a fatal shooting at a homeless encampment. 2 people died in the shooting and 3 more were critically wounded.
We are involved in a homeless crisis, the like that we have not seen since the Great Depression.
We were sleeping on mats on the floor, but I didn't have anywhere to go.
There had been a 10-year plan to end homelessness, and at the end of that 10 years, the problem was significantly worse. So the question I had to ask, what are we doing wrong?
My name is Catherine Lester. I'm the Human Services Director for the City of Seattle. Our system has historically been fragmented. It can be very difficult for people who are in crisis to figure out what door to go into in order to access the services that they need. It's been one that has not often used data, not just for compliance, but also to really figure out what works for real people.
We had been in conversations with Bloomberg Philanthropies on a series of issues, and when we found out about what works cities, it seemed to be really the model to help us develop the metrics that we needed, which is why we approached them.
Seattle spends $50 million a year on homelessness. Clearly, what the city thought would work hasn't been working. I came in to help them figure out how can they restructure the way that they spend money, how can they reorient their contracts to be more outcomes focused, to be more performance focused.
The mission of Mary's Place is really empowering homeless women, children, and families to reclaim their lives. And our goal is that no child would sleep outside in our city. And unfortunately, that's not the reality.
Ultimately, we really want people to be housed, sheltered, indoors, and so data is really critical in helping to be laser focused on how we do that.
First, what we do is we come in and we say, what are you trying to achieve? How do we measure that? Make sure that you've got good data. And then the last question is, what do you do with that? And I think that's kind of the area where cities really struggle.
We talked a lot about data, and we actually collected a lot of data, but it didn't necessarily match with the results or the impact that we were trying to have.
We may have been collecting outcomes for 25 or 30 different things.
How many beds do we have? How many people got served? And although those things are really important, they don't necessarily translate to long-term impacts.
Through the process, we were able to narrow down what it was that really was critically important.
It's thinking about what are the things that help people become housed, and then what are we going to count to tell us whether or not we're actually on the right track.
My name is George. This is my wife, Maria. We just celebrated 7 years 2 weeks ago. We moved to Oregon. We wanted to raise our son, Georgie, down there. But a couple of her medical conditions made it so that we had to move back up here. Mary's Place was a perfect place for us where we could stay together and not split up our family.
When the state of emergency was declared, we had 3 individual contracts from the city of Seattle. Each contract was very specific about who we're serving, whether it's the age range or what type of homelessness they're experiencing. Managing it becomes time-consuming and takes away from the work that we're actually doing.
I believe that the service providers are the ones that really understand the issue because they're working with the folks one-on-one, day-to-day. That's one of the best parts, is that we've been able to sit at the table, give our input, and really have it being taken and being implemented in the pieces of what they're doing.
One of the great things about this pilot is how we are more flexible with the agencies.
Working with What Works Cities, we've actually been able to really try new things. They help influence the city of Seattle in combining all of our contracts into one portfolio contract. Being able to blend those pots of money, now we get to serve who needs it.
Flexible funding has allowed us to pay first, last, and deposit on families where we didn't have that funding before.
Interview close.
A food handler's card.
We receive the funding, we can help who's in need, and then we can show that that help was successful.
Because this happens at the ground up, because it is organic in how it develops in a given situation, in a given department, based on those particular circumstances, what I've heard is, this is working. This is different than the other 30 years of trying this.
The early data information is very encouraging. Some of the numbers about people being served and getting into permanent housing is looking very good.
It happened really, really fast. They did some research and they found this apartment, and our advocate put in the application fees for us, and the next day we got approved, and Marty had to check for us for the deposit so that we can move in.
My family is in a place now, together.
Turn around, face the camera.
We don't have to only have one room, and we can cook when we want to.
Yeah, somebody gets to just get up and make cereal.
You know, the service providers, the clients, everybody's bought into what we're trying to do. It gives you a lot of hope, and it makes you energetic to go to work because your voice is being heard.
I can't really explain the feeling. Every day I wake up and I just feel blessed that me and my child have a roof over our head. And I just feel like my future is bright. I feel like my kids will be stable, and I'll always let them know that we had help from some amazing people.
Working with What Works Cities has afforded Seattle a different level of technical expertise to build our own capacity.
The city collects a lot of data, and that open data allows people to help us develop tools such as apps to help people in traffic. And so it's using the metrics we've learned with What Works Cities and expanding that to other programs throughout city government.
We intend to do this in other contracts in other areas, and as we learn more, the data information will be even more helpful. It's a journey, and it's encouraging. I'm looking forward to it.